afternoon, everybody. How's it going? We are live with another Printavo University. What up, Julie? How's it going? As always, we love to start it off and see who's watching, see where you're at. So pop in the chat a hello and where you're watching from. We'd love to know. And then today we got a real exciting topic. I can't wait to talk about it. And as always, we got Matt Marcotte here. Yo, what's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, folks? Yeah, I'm super excited about today. What's up, everybody? Chessie, thanks for joining in. What's up, everybody? So yeah, like Nick mentioned, today's a good one. Today everyone's a good one, right? But today I'm really excited about. We've got a fantastic guest, Amy from Threadbare Print House. We're talking about community and community building. And when Nick and I and the team were talking about this as a subject, Amy was the only person that came to mind. Out of what we see on social media, what we know about her just from the influence she's had on the impact she's had on the industry itself, it was a no-brainer that the best person that we could talk to about the subject would be Amy. So without any further ado, welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. You guys are a big deal, you know.
Well, I don't know about that, Amy.
Nick is. I'm not. Nick is. Nick's hair's a big deal lately, too. Look at that big old helmet.
But, yeah, let's start with an easy one. Amy, just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Threadbare.
Sure. I started Threadbare in my garage a little over 10 years ago. And for the first half of the business, it's been, it was a hobby. You know, I did it on the side. I was a stay-at-home mom and I did it in my garage. About 5 years ago, I moved into a shop, went full-time, you know, got employees, kind of, you know, made it a real business. So that's been a really exciting kind of learn as you go adventure, like so many print shops do, start in their garage, but it's been an adventure.
Totally.
What were you doing before that? What was Amy's career or jobs before going into this?
I mean, years before, I had worked in different programs with teenagers who were at risk or kids that were in trouble and got sent to these programs, like residential programs. And so I had worked in that, and then I had become a mom and didn't want to do that anymore. So I actually hadn't worked in 10 years when I went through a divorce and decided, like, oh, I haven't had a job in 10 years. Maybe I'll keep this hobby and see if I can turn it into a business. So that happened in 2015.
Well, and you had the full-time job of being a mom, which is incredibly hard. I mean, I've never been a mom, but I've witnessed it firsthand, and holy crap. I like to think that probably also helps when it comes to the employees and running a shop. And I mean, the shops that I've been the manager of, like, you almost kind of become like the parent, right? You're there to like talk to them about their feelings, their emotions. They're having a rough day, you pull them aside. It's like, hey, champ, what's going on, right? So, I mean, I think a lot of that, I mean, you didn't have like the official title other than mom, but that's a full-time gig right there that I think probably hopefully helps segue into being a manager and running a team. Do you feel like has any correlation at all?
Oh, totally. Like, with being a parent and also with being a boss, you have to fake it till you make it, right? If you don't know what you're doing, you have to pretend you do and make decisions and see what happens so that people trust you. So I think they are similar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm happy to hear that as parents, we're all just faking it till we make it. We're all in agreement there that we're pretending to be parents until we actually are. Is that accurate?
Everybody else is doing that.
That's how I've been doing it. So, okay. Kristen Valdez, thank you. I got a yes. So perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for making me feel like I'm actually not a terrible human of a parent. So perfect.
Yeah, so the reason we brought you on and we talk about community, and I'm wondering, once you went to full time, was that in mind? Did you decide, hey, I'm going to be a community-focused print shop, or how did you get started focusing printing for the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think the business has always been an extension of myself. And so I had worked with troubled youth before. In the very beginning, I was working with my kids' schools and my friends that own businesses. And, you know, those were some of my first customers. So, yeah, I mean, it was always there a little bit, but the biggest thing that happened to affect the way we work with the community was when we did a big event around the Women's March, which was 2016. And so we created this t-shirt design. It said Fiercely Feminist, and we printed up a bunch and sold a bunch. We raised money for Planned Parenthood, and we had people wear them to DC to the march. And then, it really took off. The news picked it up. So we, the day before the Women's March, so it was a Friday and it was Trump's inauguration, we opened the doors and we said, anyone who brings us a shirt, donate to Planned Parenthood, we'll just print this image on it. And it exploded. I mean, we had people in here. I was supposed to take a train. I missed my train that day. There was hundreds of people here. People were crying. The news came. Like, it just really put us on the map as trying to support our community. And so since then, we've had an opportunity to do similar events. We've hosted other fundraisers. We get asked to be involved in different community events. So that was kind of the catalyst, I think.
So I've got a question kind of off of that, and it may be a little insensitive, but I'm curious. With you kind of starting off on that foot, is that the foot that you wanted to continue to be on, or did you feel that the community kind of showed you that's what they wanted you to be, and so you felt like you kind of had to maintain that? Was it more of a natural, like, yeah, they wanted it, and that's what I wanted to be, so it worked? Or was it kind of like a push going, okay, well, I guess I have to go this route?
I think, in the beginning, some of the things we did, it was just intrinsically, it felt right. We wanted to. And then as the years have gone on, we've definitely learned that it's also good for the bottom line. Like, it's not, I didn't start hosting these events or working with different nonprofits and the things that we do because I thought it would necessarily, put us on the map and make us more money, but it definitely does at the end of the day, because I get people that call and say, oh, I definitely want to use your print shop because I hear about what you do for the community. And, we're not the cheapest in town, I'm sure. And a lot of our customers aren't necessarily looking for the cheapest in town. They're just looking for something they believe in and can stand behind and goes in line with their own values.
I'm glad that you're open and willing to talk about that too, because a lot of people won't be open about that, right? Like, it's one thing to say, like, yeah, we do help the community, but to be able to also, like, yeah, in turn, the community helps us. And I think that's a really important thing to be open and candid about, that it is a cycle. You help the community will help you back. It shouldn't be one or the other, but it's also not accurate to be like, oh yeah, we just help, and not address the fact that, like, it's not that your motive is to get that, because it's not your motive. Clearly, you wouldn't be doing these selfless acts if that was your motive. But the nice thing about it is, by doing these things, it does help cycle those things right back into you. So you're almost creating more funnels while actually helping serve your community. I think it's an important thing to talk about that bottom line, to be upfront and honest about that.
Yeah, it really does. And, I am running a business at the end of the day, and I have to tell myself, I'm here to make money. And if I do, then I can pay my employees and do more good things and pay my employees better. That's another big part of community, right? Like, my employees are part of the community, and how they feel about this business matters, and how they go out in the world and reflect on this business is important. And so taking care of them and making sure people feel valued here is really important. And when I start to think, like, I can be one to be way too soft and try to give away the farm, and everybody that walks in the door, like, sure, we'll print those for free. And, that's sort of my weakness, but the way I rein it back is be like, oh, I'm here to make money. And that is important.
Matt, you talked about it like funnels. I'm kind of curious, Amy, who would you describe as some of the customers that are the community focused customers you're printing for? Like, what are some of those community based customers you're targeting?
Yeah, schools is one, nonprofits. And, just because something's a nonprofit doesn't mean that organization doesn't have money. So we work with several that are environmental nonprofits, and they're willing to spend a little bit more knowing that they're getting an organic t-shirt with water-based print on it. So it's not always about, like, the nonprofits we work with don't necessarily need free shirts or discounts. Like, they also need to know that what they're getting is in line with the values of their organization. Yeah, and then I don't know, we are doing a job right now with the Vets Hall for a fundraiser they're doing. We work with, so after we did that fundraiser for Planned Parenthood, luckily when I was there, when we were hosting that event, somebody told me like, oh, you're going to donate this money to the local chapter, right? Which hadn't occurred to me. So we did. And that turned into, now we print for the local chapter, Planned Parenthood, and the one in Portland. And so, we just got on their radar. And so we hadn't before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's an important thing too, that you're donating to the local chapter or something. So again, the community, Planned Parenthood as a giant entity, right? And giving money to the giant entity, although it will trickle down and help, you're doing better and saying, no, we're keeping this money at the local level, which again, opened the door to a new funnel for you, right? And it's you're helping the company out, you're helping Planned Parenthood out, you're helping raise money, and they're going, oh, okay, they're helping us. Let's pay attention to them. Let's actually have Amy quit this job. And now there's other things that I'm assuming they're hopefully in some cases paying for jobs too, not just taking the free money, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now,
absolutely.
are you doing any kind of like co-sponsorships with this kind of stuff? Like when you do these sponsored events, are you like, oh, we're gonna print for the print house on the back, and you're gonna have the front or a sleeve? How do those things usually work when you're going about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to get your name out there. If a job comes to us, no matter what it is, if they have all those logos on the back, we ask if we can add our logo to it, and then we'll print the back for free. It's just a policy that we have, and it sounds really good. Customers love it. No one's ever said no. And then our name, our logo's out there. It's just advertising, and so we do that quite a bit.
Really specific.
Quick question from Chessie that I wanted to, before I forget. Chessie, our friend from the UK, she's got a great question. She said, Amy, your policies infographic is so good. Can I steal that idea for my customers? So would you be upset if Chessie kind of bit your style a little bit there and utilize that as something that she can do? All right, Chessie, you got
yeah.
go for
Chessie,
it.
Yeah, that's such a compliment.
Amy, really specific one. You mentioned how the environmental nonprofits, they want to buy something tied to their values. Do you find that those nonprofits are referring your business to others, or are you guys going out, looking up all the nonprofits in the city and then doing cold reach outs to them?
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. We've been almost solely word of mouth up until more recently. I recently put a salesperson into a position, and so we're just now doing that, but it's been word of mouth. Eugene's a city, it's not a tiny town or anything, but if there's this nonprofit that's saving the watershed, well, they work with this brewery to make the clean water, and then there's a parent that is on the board there, and then there's schools. So I feel like that's how community works, is that everybody is a little connected, even in a bigger town like this. And even in bigger cities, I'm sure people run in their similar circles, and, if you've had a good experience somewhere, then you recommend them. And that's better than any kind of advertising.
So that's something that I would say for smaller shops, especially any size shop, but definitely if you're a smaller shop and trying to get some footing, go to where people are organized, right? So people that tend to want to help a community like to organize, and they're usually business leaders themselves, right? Or they've got other organizations that they work with. So just going to Joe Schmo on the street, yeah, he's got some friends, but what do they need to have for t-shirts? Are they, oh, I got a buddy in the band. Cool, that's one customer, right? As opposed to going to something with community driven, the Chamber of Commerce, or anything where people are organizing together. They're usually business leads that have companies or are doing other things too. So again, focusing on a funnel that has other funnels within, as opposed to just trying to do the standard basic word of mouth. So I think you kind of went over some gold right there of going to people, like you said, they might have someone who does this, they might have someone who does that. Going to people who are already organized and already trying to work together to get something done are the right kind of folks to continue to perpetuate more opportunity.
Well, and solving problems for those places. So like people that work at nonprofits are usually working very hard, and they're not in the business of fashion brands or, building a t-shirt line or something. But when you're able to do just a little bit more for them and help them with the size run, or, just facilitate, like we'll tell people, we can make you a digital mock-up so that you can put it on Facebook and in your email blast, and you can get a bunch of pre-orders so that you don't sit on this big order of shirts. You're not in the business of retailing t-shirts, and that's just a service we're able to, at no cost, give it to them. It helps them out and makes it easier for us because we want them to be successful.
I love it. So one question from Matt Browning, and hey everybody, just so I don't want to miss your questions, make sure to add them into the questions area. You can put it in the chat, but if I miss them, I apologize. So Matt Browning had a great question. He's curious, do you have any outside sales efforts, or is it all just inbound and word of mouth? Do you have folks that are actually outbound salespeople?
We just last winter moved one of our screen printers into sales position. He and I are both learning as we go, right? So I feel like so many of the things from building this business from the ground up, and definitely with lots of help from lots of people, but as any print shop knows, there's not just one rule book to follow. And so this is another example where he and I just met and we said, let's try this. This is what you want to get paid. This is what I want to do. Like, let's figure it out. So we have had a chance to do just a little bit. And then our plan this summer is to try to do more outreach to actively go after sales, which we haven't done before.
You said something so interesting to me. You said that you're able to solve the problems for these businesses. What are some of the other problems you notice they have, and how do you guys solve them?
One of the big ones, so we do print for a lot of restaurants and displays. Like a restaurant has a limited amount of space behind the counter, and we've tried to be able to help and give tips because displays in a restaurant is everything, right? Especially if it's a tour. Eugene's not really a tourist town, but like, for example, we have the Olympic trials coming here in a couple weeks, and brings in a lot of people from out of town. So if those T-shirts for the brewery say Eugene, Oregon on it, then people from out of town seem more likely to buy them. So we've given people tips like that. We've helped, just figure out how to display things. We've also learned that if the people behind the bar are wearing the shirts, then they sell more. So, we just try to help them figure it out. And a lot of our customers are great at it and don't need our help. But that's one, I feel like that's a big one that we've tried to solve. And I don't know if we've been that helpful, but it would be nice if we had good solutions for customers about that.
Yeah, that's great. So Chelsea's on top of it with questions today. Her question is there people you don't want to work for? I think that's a question, Jesse. So is there anybody that maybe has offered? It's actually a good question. If it's not your question, Jesse, I apologize, but I'm curious. Has there ever been an opportunity for something that you've been like, what, we are community based, and that is kind of one of the pillars of our company, and I don't feel that this represents the company well or the community well. Have you ever turned down work for anything like that?
No, I mean, we're here to make money. We're not just trying to be like the liberal print shop or something. We're definitely happy to work with anybody if the margins are right and it works for us. The only things we've ever turned down are like if something seems blatantly racist or sexist or something. Like we've turned down a few things, not very many over the years, but we don't get asked for a lot of that stuff. I think people just kind of know what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Now, Amy, we've been talking a little bit about this sort of indirectly, but how do you guys run a fundraiser? Do you do an online store? Do you do a split? Tell us about the nitty gritty of your fundraiser.
Yeah, we've done a few. So before COVID, we would do fundraisers where we would open the doors, and if people brought their own T-shirt, then we would print on it. We'd have a few different options, and we'd print on it and ask them to donate. And that was really popular. We did a few of those. When COVID hit last year, in those panicky days around March 13th, I did a lot of laying on the couch and scrambling, like, what the heck are we going to do? So one of the things I did was just like we got to cut out any extra costs. So I emailed Printavo and I was like, take away that online fundraiser store that I'm paying $100 a month for. Like, we've hardly ever used it. We're cutting everything out that we don't need. And then as a few days went by and I saw that all these online fundraisers were happening, and then I emailed you guys back and I was like, never mind, I need that back. And once we had that, we did hundreds of those and we raised, so much money for the community. Not just nonprofit, the restaurants, like anybody, the schools, we did a bunch of them. And that was really kept us in business for one thing, was helping our community. And then they've slowed down, but since then, people remember that and people want us to stay around. They remember how we helped their favorite restaurant and they'll hit us up and say, I'm so glad you're still here. I want to give you my business. I love what you guys do for the community.
So I've got a question on the merch stores, actually. Go ahead. And it's one that I hear a lot, obviously working here at Printavo, and I've got my insight, I've got some other folks' insight. I'm curious to you. So when you're doing a merch store, are they just timed stores? Do you stick with, okay, I'm going to have stuff for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Do you have stores that you kind of have as like it's open-ended? And if you do have it open-ended, how are you printing and fulfilling? What does it look like when you actually inform somebody of the merch store, and how do you usually go about setting that up for them?
Yeah, we're a small shop. We're 2 manuals, so we can't do the fulfillment, and we just have to know our limitations. So we only do the pre-order, and we can advise on like the 7 to 10 day window works the best, and it's all about you promoting it and letting your community know that this is the window, and when it's closed, it's closed, and can't do it again next week. Like if you did one now, you can wait 6 more months before that's going to work again, because everybody who's going to support you just bought it. But yeah, that would solve a lot of problems for a lot of our customers if we did do fulfillment. We just don't have the bandwidth for it.
No, that's good feedback. When you're doing that, sorry, I keep cutting you off, Nick, but I'm curious. When you're hosting that, so you're doing it for a 7-10 day window, and you already talked about how you're kind of also giving them some assets, right? So you're giving them like a file so they can share it on their Instagram, their Facebook, things like that. Are you finding you're having to do anything else to help inform them of how they can help themselves? Like, is there any kind of like, here's some marketing ideas you can do. Here's some ways to spread this. What happens if they don't hit minimums? Do you put minimums in? If they don't hit their minimums, are you refunding the orders and saying, sorry, it didn't work out? Or how do you handle that stuff with your customers?
Yeah, with the online merch stores, we have a $100 setup fee to set one up. So that's supposed to help us cover if the merch store doesn't sell a lot.
That's a big deal. That's a big pointer right there. It's a big pointer that you just quickly you're saying, hey, I'll do this, but I need money up front, because there's still time and costs associated with putting that store together. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize, but that's a big thing you just threw out there that I highly recommend people take note of. So sorry, please continue.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And then it covers itself if we do one a month, which we usually do more than one. And then we should probably at this point implement some kind of, like, I think other print shops, if you don't hit a 24 minimum, they just refund everybody's order, but I would have a hard time doing that. So we haven't done that, and we have fulfilled we've had a few merch stores that sold 3 items, and we did it kind of as a loss leader, or just, I don't know. It's hard for me to disappoint people. So, but that doesn't make us any money.
That makes sense. Sean has from Red Letter Apparel. He's got a great question too that I'm sure a lot of folks have had. So currently with Printavo merch stores, at the very bottom, it has your shop's information, and currently that's non-editable. That stays there. I know there's been some talk of iterations on Merchbox to make that customizable. But Sean's question is, if I've got lots of these merch stores that are going, and people are asking questions that are really not pointed to me, the decorator, they should be pointed to the person's host that the store's for. Are you finding that you're having to answer too many questions to the end user? And how are you going about kind of not not having to be the answer person on all these questions that are oftentimes below where you should be answering without upsetting the relationship with your customer.
Yeah, I mean, I just forward those emails. I don't bother responding. So hopefully the organization does. What we get the most of is, I mean, I try to make it so clear in those merch stores that this is a pre-order. It closes on this day. We've got 2 weeks. So, don't expect this on your doorstep until this date. And I think it's on there 3 times, it's when you check out, it's in the description, but still the merch store closes and I get all these emails being like, I ordered this a week ago. Where is it? And so that gets a little tiresome to like, remember, this is a merch store. It's a pre-order. We've got to print it still. It's coming.
That's awesome.
You just made everybody very happy, by the way.
We're in the chat.
Very happy about your answers there.
Here's my question, Amy, about these. So you mentioned how there was a real uptick in merch stores as COVID started, but you're still doing them. So how has your pitch changed? If there's no longer a pandemic, what are you pitching now to get people to still agree to do fundraising stuff?
Mostly the ones we're doing are still, the gyms, which are barely open or not open, or it changes every week. I don't know. Those kinds of companies usually have a pretty loyal following, right? So we've, like right now we're doing one for a gym. A couple of the schools just learned how much of a burden that takes off the PTA, right? So when you work with schools, it's usually a parent and they're busy and, they're volunteering and they're trying to help and collecting all these orders and then distributing them, especially when the kids here at least are only in school 2 days a week. And it really solves a headache for the schools to be able to do those merch stores. They send it out in their newsletter, they make an announcement, and then nobody has to deal with all this inventory. We just print and ship directly, and it's contactless, so it's COVID friendly, and all those things. So that's what's kind of still doing the merch stores.
With the fundraiser stores, but also with any type of fundraiser, also those in-person fundraisers you were talking about where they bring in the shirt. Do you do anything specific to your printing? I know you mentioned printing on the back, but is there anything in particular that you guys are doing on a fundraiser garment?
Yeah, so a few times, we've given a discount to somebody that we believe in their cause, but they don't have all the sponsors on the back. So we have saved on a screen as Threadbare tags. So it takes a little more work, right? But we have printed Threadbare tags in shirts that go out so that people know where it came from, and it helps get our name out there. It's an advertising cost. It takes a little more time. Some of the in-person fundraisers that we've done here, we only print on one side, right? Although any side, they can hand us their shirt and say, we put this on the back or the side or at the sleeve or whatever. We can do that.
If you're doing so it sounds like an inside neck tag is what it sounds like you're doing to add in Threadbare. When you're doing that, is that just like okay, just do it and get it done, or are you actually like creating a work ticket for that, associating what the cost would be, and then using it as any kind of like charitable donation write-off, or is it just we're doing it just to do it?
Yeah, so you can't write that off as a charitable donation because it's a service, the actual screen printing. So the way it works is if we wanted to donate 100 t-shirts to a nonprofit, and this has happened where then they write me a thank you letter and it has their tax ID number in it, and I collect them all and go to my CPA and say, look at all this good stuff I've done, like save me a bunch of money. And it doesn't really work that way, unfortunately, because you can only write off the cost of the garment itself, the $3 that you paid for the blank. And then if you want to make that the charitable donation, you can't also write that off as a cost of goods sold. So if I order, as we do, a whole bunch of jobs from Sanmar, if I wanted to take the time to pull out the cost of those certain ones, I'd have to make sure they didn't get entered in QuickBooks as cost of goods sold, and then instead as a charitable donation. And, we haven't done enough to make it worthwhile because we don't usually just donate a bunch. We usually offer discounts. So there's been, even though I've tried to tell my CPA how great we are, there's really not a tax benefit that I know of.
Good answer. Thank you. I get that question a lot, and it's hard because I know it's one thing to say, yeah, I'm buying these shirts, I'm donating them. That's a nice, easy, here you go, right? It's very different. We're saying, okay, well, you're already paying for something. I'm going to add something on for free. Can I write that off as a donation? How does that work? So I appreciate that answer.
I have a question that is sort of out of left field, but you were telling us about this the other day. I'm really excited to hear about this one. You guys have a high school internship program. Tell us about that. How do you find the interns? What do they learn? Yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, printers across the country, it's hard to find skilled workers, right? I think we should all be investing a little bit in letting, the high schoolers know that this is a great career. It's fun, it's artistic, it's creative. It can be a really good option. So we have a few different ways we do it. The first way it started was a school came to us. So we have a charter school in town, and they have a structured program every January. They place kids in businesses according to their interests. And it's structured. I fill out paperwork. They come on these certain hours and they don't have to go to school. Instead, they come here. So that was a great start to it. We've actually had 2 interns from that program end up working here as a job. And one of them, Jem, still works here. It's been several years later. She's getting through college now. So, we found her through that program. That was great. We've had more informal ones where schools or teachers have contacted us and said, we have this high school kid who, is really interested in having his own clothing line. Could you do an internship? And so we've sort of learned over the years to spread them out because it can be work for us. They're unpaid internships. So we usually put them on folding t-shirts or washing screens. And it's always worked out. We've never had one that didn't work out. But we've learned kind of because we've had people offered to come every day 9 to 5 and volunteer their time. But we've found that it works best 3-hour chunks because that way someone can supervise and it's manageable. It doesn't disrupt our day too much. So we have we have an intern right now. He's doing 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, 3 or 4 hours a day. And that's been great because we had this job, 1,200 heat pressing shirts. So 1,200 on the front, 1,200 on the sleeve. So a lot of heat pressing. And so he started his internship doing that and he's done great. So we're going to keep him on as long as this job is going on. And that one actually was through a nonprofit in town that's actually paying the high schoolers $12 an hour. So he's getting paid, but not by me. And it's just a great program. And then, because of these interns we've been doing for years, we're helping 2 different schools start their own screen printing shop at the school. So we're just advising. I donated a press to one that we no longer used. I'm not setting them up. It's not taking a lot of my time, but we're advising them on where to get inks and, YouTube channels and just helping them. So I think that really fills a need. I think, what big percentage of high school kids all have a t-shirt idea or a clothing brand in mind. So, rather than them walk through the door here and us has to say, no, that doesn't make sense for us, empowering them to do it themselves is a great opportunity. And I can just hear people saying oh, why would you be training your competition? And the answer to that is it's so hard to run a screen printing business and only 50% of that is actual screen printing. I'm not too worried about these high schoolers learning to screen print in their garage. If you want to try to start a commercial print shop, have at it. It's not that easy and it's very expensive.
No, and you're they might even come back and be potential employees in the future too, or the help that you gave them. So I've got a question, just thinking about having a high schooler in my shop.
Mhm.
What kind of liability insurance has to go into play with something like that? Is the nonprofit actually covering a liability insurance? Did you have to talk to your insurance agent and kind of like get some sort of plan put in? Is that even something you've thought about? Am I just overly worried?
No. There's a few. So the hours they work. So I don't know the Oregon state laws offhand, but if you're 15, you can only work this many hours. If you're under 17, so all of that is regulated by the organization. You know, that's kind of on them. I haven't talked to my insurance agent about it, but we also don't put interns on press usually. So all the safety protocols that we have, you know, if you're folding shirts or washing screens, you're in a certain area that it should be, if we're all doing it right, it should be safe.
Perfect. Just curious. I guess cleaning screens, but if you're all water-based, it makes it a little bit easier. There's probably less chemistry involved in your reclaim area than a lot of shops. But that was what I was actually curious. I was thinking of like a 15-year-old over my screen booth. I would have a hard time like, stay away from the chemicals, don't touch them. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, like you said, with the water-based inks, I think we're safe there.
Perfect. Chessie has another good question. She wants to know, do you design your own logo / shop shirts?
Yeah, so there's a few different, so almost everyone that works here, we're gonna have 9 employees next week, but we usually have 6 to 9, something like that. Everyone that works here is an artist in some kind of way, so I encourage people to create a Threadbare design. We have shop shirts that we print, you know, doesn't have to be a big logo. In fact, it's almost never just our logo. Somebody's cool drawing or graphic designer, and then we put a little Threadbare on it somewhere. You know, we've had interns make really cool designs that we still print. So we give those away in almost every order. It's just advertising, and we have a bunch of them. So a lot of opportunity to just create new things. So yeah, we've done that. And then I had a graphic designer on staff for a while that did our logo and like that infographic and a lot of our website graphics and stuff. And she is now freelancing, but we still work with her when we need Threadbare stuff or when our customers need design. So we have a relationship there that we can lean on.
So Chessie can actually reach out to your old designer and do some freelance work for your infographic, Chessie. So there you go. Reach out to Amy later on and get that contact.
Yeah.
You know, Amy, you said this earlier, and I feel like it's coming up again. You mentioned how the employees are community members. It also sounds like the team is growing, super excited to be at work every day. It's a little outside of the scope of our conversation, but I'm curious, how do you guys keep up the culture? Does it help that you guys are printing for certain causes, or like, what have you noticed really helps with the internal community of your print shop?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hard one, right? Because it's not like a policy. It happens naturally, I assume, at most places. I mean, I definitely try to pay people as well as I can. I've had an employee who started here 8 years ago when he was 15, and he's now our production manager. So Kai is, I can hear them shouting. They must be watching this. So, you know, I think that that's a nice relationship to have, like somebody that you completely trust, somebody who's watched this business grow for so long and been a part of it, like an integral part of helping the business grow. And then we've never hired, well, until next week, we have someone new starting, but we've never hired anyone that's worked in another print shop. So we don't hire for experience necessarily. We really do try to hire people that we like and that seem like, you know, motivated to help the shop grow. Then they seem like fast learners. And so we've trained everybody on our system up to this point. And then we just try to do stuff like we have pizza parties. We have Beer 30 on Fridays where we just clean up and have a couple beers. We go on field trips. So we've walked to an art gallery a few blocks away and just kind of done things on the clock like that aren't just necessarily grinding all the time, but more, you know, this is a group of people who I hope like working here and like each other. And it seems like we have a pretty good team right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I also love first one you said, good pay. That's definitely a huge one, but also the growth paths. Like if you like, that's so cool. And also shout out to Kai. What up, Kai? Thanks for watching, and that's awesome to hear that you've had that journey through the industry. So that's so cool. Okay. Let me get back to the real topic. I just had to ask that one. The bottom line. You mentioned this earlier. Would you say that being community oriented, printing for these types of clients is only helpful at bottom line? Is there downsides? How has it impacted the bottom line to make the business community focused?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been good and bad. I'd say overall good. The downside is maybe that everybody who wants a discount walks in our door and asks for one. So we have to be a little bit selective. We don't say yes to everything. One thing that's helped is getting that salesperson, Sam, in place, because prior to that, I mean, I was the only one quoting, and I kind of loosely had a price list, but depending on your sob story, I'm already stretching the price or before I even give it to you, that's just one of my weak points. And so having somebody on board, we got an actual price list that we can all refer to, standardized. And, just having him have that focus of sales is our goal, margins matter, all these things that I'm not super great at, having somebody else on board to be like, well, I calculated the math on that, and, we'd lose money if we did that. It's kind of nice for someone to tell you.
So do you fall victim to what Brendan Boynton brought up a little earlier, that they've got an adorable old man discount? Do you find that when these sweet little old folks walk into your shop that your heartstrings just get tugged and you're kind of giving away the fun? I know I've got a hard time with similar things too. If you're a sweet old person, I'm like, I'll pay you. I'll do your shirts. What can I do for you? Being so community based, what is that like when someone comes in who may have been a part of another a fundraiser you maybe did work with or anything like that? Is it hard for you to actually then hold that business line when you are so community involved?
Yeah, we have probably an unwritten rule of the old man discount. So when the 80 plus crowd comes in here, men and women, and they don't have an email address, and they don't have vector artwork, they have a photograph or a drawing or something, we never say no. Like, we've done a lot of those little projects. We had one, I think it was around Christmas time, when this gentleman came in and he had a photo of his dog, and he really wanted to give his wife a shirt with a picture of the dog on it, and no email address, call him on his landline, just little sweetheart. And so we did it, and we did a CMYK print of this dog. And the whole time we're like, oh, did the dog die? Like, oh, this poor old family, like they lost their dog. And we're just like, so glad we could do this for them. It's gonna be the best Christmas they ever had. And we charged him, I think, $30 for the t-shirt. But since it was a CMYK print, we did two, and we just gave him both, because why not? It's already up on press. So we paid for it and left. And then a few weeks later, I got a card in the mail with another check for the $30 saying, you gave me two shirts and I only paid for one. It doesn't feel right. I want to pay for the other shirt. And I was just like, oh, no, that didn't, you don't have to pay for that. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to not cash the check. And then Jem was like, well, but then you're going to stress out this guy because he's going to be balancing his checkbook as people do. I was like, okay, fine. Well, maybe I'll send it back to him with the letter. Well, then he's going to feel bad. So in the end, I just took the $30 and, was gracious about it. But yeah, we have done that a few times.
Oh, but being part of the community, like, look, that's four screens right there. You did not make your money back on that. But how did it make you? How did it make you feel? How did it make your shop feel? The people that are working to do it, like, that's the kind of stuff where I agree with what Kristen Valdez says here. You can't say no in some instances, and like something like that. Like, if you are a community driven company and you're you can look an old person in the face in that story and tell them, no, it's not worth it for you, like you're a jerk. Like you gotta just do it. So it's one of those things where it's hard to say no. It's important to know how to say no. We've talked about that before in the past too, but I'm with you. If someone's over 80, I'm going to do whatever I possibly can to say yes, because what are we doing here? Like if it wasn't for that generation, we wouldn't be here either. Right. So that's a cute story. I'm also glad to hear that there's Brendan, there's you and other folks that have the adorable old man discount.
Well, and by the way, the dog was still alive. So we had just made the wrong assumption. He came to pick it up and we're just like, oh, and he is like, oh, no, dog's fine. Just want a Christmas present.
Oh, so you wrote this whole story in your head of like, oh, this poor dog. So you almost were doing it in like feeling bad for that. Like, nope, he just wants a t-shirt with the dog on it too. So I got the dog. That's too good. Love it. Love it.
The downside is you can do that a few times and someone can come back and think you can always do that. And so it's a good idea to let people know it's an exception, or, just to set expectations. And like you said, you can't say yes every time.
Has there ever been a situation where you have had maybe an older person, someone that you felt for, you had empathy for the situation, sympathy for them, but you still had to say no?
Not for the old guys. We always say yes.
They get you? The old guys get you?
Every time. I see him coming, and I'm like, oh, whatever he wants. Stop the presses. No, the hardest things are like when maybe artists like that do watercolors bring us something and it's not efficient. We can't translate it the way they want to. And, those are the times when it's kind of hard, but I do have to just say like we're not the right shop. Maybe somebody with a DTG or somebody who can do some digital printing, but by the time we do a CMYK and then if you want it on black shirts, then we really can't do it. And with our water-based inks and, we kind of know our limitations and know when we have to turn people down.
Yeah, that's a hard skill to learn. It is a skill, being able to know your own strengths and identify where you don't have strengths and be able to say no to a customer and even have to do what hurts a lot and go, here's a phone number, somebody who can do it, right? But for the community, it's important, right? If you're what Kristen's saying, under promise, over deliver, that's great. The worst thing you can do is the opposite, right? Once you get into the once you overpromise and underdeliver one time, that is now one negative against it's out and about in your community feeling negatively about you. It's only going to get worse.
There's a bigger print shop across town with the DTG. They probably hate me because we're centrally located. We're near downtown. And so people walk in a lot and with their photographs or their watercolors. And when I am just like, this is a better job for a DTG, call these guys, and I don't know how they feel about their DTG, but then somebody said, oh, I took your advice and called them and their machine's broken. And I was like, oh yeah, it probably is. Probably because I send them all this stuff. Everybody wants a shirt with a photo of their dog on it, but only the old man.
Yeah, you could start the Amy brokerage company where you're just the broker for all these little old men DTG dog shirts. Just separate merch store, DTG old men dog shirts coming soon. Just outsourcing all of it to. We'll make a Printavo University hub of DTG printers for you, so you can just send them out everywhere to get the work done.
You have to call their landline.
So good. Fax it over for a proof.
Yeah.
And sign it, and fax it back. I love it.
Okay, this has been an amazing conversation. I want to encourage anyone watching who still we've had really great questions today. So thank you everyone who's watching with those questions. Send them over. We still do have time. So if you have any questions, do ask. But Amy, I have a broad one, a general one. People watch this webinar. They're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. What are some tips you can give to help people incorporate these ideas today? What are some lessons that you already learned that people don't have to learn themselves? If I wanted to make my shop community oriented or more community oriented, where would you suggest people start?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways we've talked about. One that just came to mind we haven't talked about yet is we do employ an adult with disabilities through a program, a work program in our town. So that's been huge. We love having her here. She works 6 hours a week. And as my shop grows, I hope to bring on somebody else from that program, because adults with disabilities are extremely talented and have a 90% unemployment rate. So, there's people out there who are really willing to work, and especially in what we do, which can have a lot of repetitive tasks like folding shirts or, in any kind of manufacturing type place, there is a place for people with different skills. So that's a big one that we've connected with the community about. Also, I think just taking some of those steps to check in with your staff and see if they like working there, like making sure that people are feeling heard and that you have those systems in place, those check-ins, so that, you're acknowledging people's birthdays, for example, or, offering mental health days when people need it, like just making sure people feel like they're not just a number in your business. And then, like the outreach, talking to nonprofits about what you do, especially if your shop has some sort of focus, ours is sustainability. And so we can reach out to those environmental nonprofits and let them know what we do. There's probably other avenues like that, depending on different shops and what your focus is, or what part of town you're in, or, or what your personal, like if you have hobbies that you love or something, and there's an organization in the community around that you could plug into, I think that would be a great place to start.
And if you find like your conviction or your hobby, and you find somebody that kind of represents that in your town, what if they're kind of like giving you the cold shoulder? They don't really care about you. Like, what is persistence key there? Is it how much do you want to do? Because you don't want to get in the thing of like, okay, well, what can I do to I'll give you something for free. I'll do this. I'll do that. Right? You're still a business. What do you recommend to somebody who's maybe like hitting a wall? They're trying, but it doesn't seem like the community is like opening any doors for them. Is persistence key? Try to find somewhere else, or make your own. Any insight?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's sort of what we're just starting to partake on, that sales side of things. So I definitely have a lot to learn on that side of things. I think, what I've heard about or what we have done is definitely giving a few things away for free, not entire orders or whatever, but if your shop is really great at simulated process, then make a design with that and start handing it out so people can see what you can do. Our shop does water-based screen printing, which is sometimes not what customers expect, and it's a little bit different than the norm. So that's why we print so many Threadbare shirts and hand them out so that people can see the different tonal techniques and discharge ink and all the different techniques that we can offer here.
You said something really quick that I thought was brilliant, so I want to just re-say it. You said aligning your shop's values of sustainability with your customers' values. Woo, that sounds like a money printer to me. That's a good idea. Andy at Shirt Kong was on Printavo University about 2 or 3 months ago, and we talked all about shop values. We had some exercises on how you might really codify those and get those written down and all the benefits of that. It's on our YouTube channel, so do check that one out. I want to make sure we answer everybody's questions. Leela had a really easy one. Do you guys do any sublimation printing, or do you source that out, or what do you guys do with sublimation?
Yeah, we don't do any sublimation, and I don't outsource it either. We just tell people if we can recommend someone, if we can recommend someone local, we can send people over there. Otherwise, we just tell people we don't.
Cool.
Yeah, perfect. You don't have to always be the answer for everybody. It's not what we do. Sorry, we don't do wraps. Go find a wrap. Somebody does wraps. Somebody does sublimation. Go find somebody else. Yep. I think it's important too, because I find a lot of shops, and I'm curious in Eugene if you have this. I personally get worried when I see shops that are like, oh, We do screen, we do wraps, we do stickers, we do sublimation, we do koozies, we do tchotchkes, we do this. It's like, are you really good at any of them, or are you only okay with all those things? I'm curious to what you see in Eugene too with that.
Yeah, the thing we've tried to wrestle with a little bit is promotional products. So on the screen printing side, what we're trying to do is offer a superior product. We push blank brands, the blanks that are, you know, sustainably minded, and, you know, we start there. We don't start with the other ones. We start with the higher end brands when we talk to customers, and then with our printing process with the water-based inks. And so because we are aiming to be something a little bit higher, I don't want to just order a bunch of stuff from China, but people want pens and, you know, tchotchkes and stuff. And so we've sort of gone back and forth and kind of come to like, well, if it's our good regular customers, like our top 20, that we want to be a one-stop shop for them, like, let's do what we can and make some efforts to try to source something a little bit special, like an Earthwell water bottle as opposed to a plastic water bottle, and like present some of those options that you can't get when you just go online and search promotional products. But we're definitely not advertising that, or when someone stops in needing koozies or glassware or something that we just don't do. Like, we know how. I could go do that stuff, but we're just too small and too busy trying to be screen printers that we just don't have the bandwidth. I really appreciate the time and the good questions, and it's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we appreciate you.
Yeah,
and someone.
Yeah, we love having you. The questions also, by the way, I'll give you guys one more minute if you guys have any questions. The questions so far have been absolutely killer. And honestly, your candidness to talk about this. I mean, community is a big thing, but to talk about your community with a whole different community is not a small ask. So I really appreciate your openness and candidness to share with us how Threadbare has done what you've done. And you folks are always, I mean, between the Instagram posts and things, and just following what you've done in the industry, it's inspirational, not just to me, but I know to all the people that are watching this are going to watch this. So thank you so very much for joining us and being as open as you have been. Really appreciate it.
That means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And then follow Threadbare Print House on Instagram. Leela had a great idea. Drop your Instagram in the chat right now. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Leela. I'm sure everybody will follow back. I can't say that for sure, but I have a feeling they will, because we're a community too. So yeah, drop your Instagram in there. I'm sure people want to see everybody else's printing. This has been so fun. This has been one of my favorite ones yet. And this is so fun. We do these every 2 weeks, everybody watching. You can go watch the archive on our YouTube channel. You can go come back in 2 weeks, and we got a really good one lined up. But Matt, I totally forgot what it is. What's our next one?
I forgot too. Is it? Nope.
Hey,
Streetwear?
Streetwear. Yes, streetwear. This
streetwear.
Luke, Mad Science.
Yep, we're talking streetwear with Mad Science Print Lab. Yep.
This is gonna be exciting.
Yes.
One of our most asked for topics. So yeah, I can't wait. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you again, Amy, and you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.